Let the game begin, in which the one who shows the correctness of his thoughts and desires wins. The queen needs such a man, so she's rewarded him with land and the title that goes with it. But she's well aware that Lloyd doesn't want that at all. So how to please him, Alicia ponders. But Lloyd also realizes that choosing something that's good for him is the right choice. Which is why he wants the Royal Academy to be completely clean of corruption and the bureaucrats at the top, who turn a blind eye to the terrible things that go on inside the academy. Students are divided by influence rather than knowledge, which is detrimental to the physical and psychological health of the lower grades. Teachers prefer to ignore it and pocket the extra money. No is shocked by the truth of what Lloyd has told, and asks Xavier to get the scroll. The scroll details the processes going on inside the academy, which were obtained through Chavi's investigation. And this is direct evidence of the guilt of those behind the evil. As you might expect, those who fear the truth will immediately turn on themselves, and so will be subjected to the spell of confession. The perpetrators will be punished, and Queen Alicia will have the academy purged of all evil, up to and including the death penalty. Lloyd is so good Lord. Chavi is also surprised by his desire to cleanse the academy, but he doesn't really care. He did it so that the queen would forget about him and he could slip away unnoticed. But Master Kale is already standing behind him with a new wish from the queen. If it pleases you, I would like you to come to the banquet tomorrow, and good you had a plan to clean up the academy to try and sneak away from me. I respect your desire to play, she relays. Lloyd doesn't understand why Chavi didn't notice his footsteps. But it's not that simple, as Kale is the best swordsman in the entire kingdom. Julian wonders if it was worth beating up the Raconta's son to get what he wanted, but Lloyd says that it can't be called beating, because he deserves it and the whole process was easy. But he asks not to say it was easy, because he's proud of his big brother more than anyone else. Kinship with Julian has grown to 65. Oh, Lloyd looks like he's going to be sick to his stomach, but Julian's not the least bit worried. Here comes the long-awaited ball in Lloyd's honor, and then Alicia appears and asks him to come to her. There's no hiding, because he looks like a bear from the outside. Even Xavier thinks so, heh. Lloyd doesn't seem to realize he needs to get closer. 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 Who? Alicia offers him whatever he wants. Enjoy, a banquet in your honor, says Alicia. And Lloyd is over the moon, because now he can basically do nothing for the next 3 years and get paid big bucks for his work. Except in 3 years, the queen will be a bloody monarch. The banquet will last until the moon wanes. The very words that led to the assassination attempt on the queen. The very cipher that led to her poisoning. But why now? It hasn't been 3 years, Lloyd thought. And he doesn't understand why Kale, the queen's right-hand man, said those words. Alicia, under the weight of a hard day, collapsed on the couch to rest, thinking that she drank a lot. She doesn't realize that she already has poison flowing in her. Samarkan al-Hizhad, head of the enemy country of Asfahan, who gathers many spies on the border of Majantan. They say it's a drill, but something doesn't look like it. What's in his head, Alicia thinks. And suddenly a pulse hits, making it hard for her to breathe. She doesn't understand why the mana doesn't absorb the alcohol that's inside her, and her heartbeat is no longer under her control, and only a single pain pierces her body. Poison, it's definitely poison, but how? I checked all the food, Alicia thinks. She wants to get outside where there is someone to breathe fresh air, but suddenly Kale appears in front of her. At just the right moment, the hand of a loved one protects her, but it's not to be, because he's the one who came with her head. Minutes earlier, Lloyd realizes that something is wrong here and it is worth rushing to the queen. Chavi senses a strange mana flow and wants to deal with it. Except that he has to fight a sword master. It sounds like a joke, but it's true. Chavi is serious, but there's no sword nearby, and the first pin he gets should be enough to hold him off for a few minutes. And there's a road of corpses stretching down the hallway. Direct blocked strike, perfect, says Kale. Alicia has managed to fend off as many as 3 punches in this state already. And there's a pathetic kick to the stomach, followed by a decisive blow, which Xavier interrupts with his attack. But Kale dodges and delivers a sword strike that Chavi blocks, and uses the vibration of mana to try to strike back. A plume of attacks follow Xavier, but all of them are blocked. And now Lloyd is next to the queen and asks her to close her pretty mouth, because only by using Azrakan's method can he try to suck out all the poison. Mana absorpción. Meanwhile, Kale uses his trump card, the Sword of Aura, which only a master swordsman can wield. Xavier realizes that there is no way out and throws a pin at Kale's head, which he calmly fights back. He jumps and the pin is back in his hands, followed by a ripping blow. Kale appreciates Xavier's skills and the way he handles his mana, but he lacks practical experience. He received a punch to the stomach and almost dodged a sword strike that he almost dodged. He's got a cut in the abdomen. Lloyd can only pump out all the poison and hope for Xavier, because if he loses, everyone dies. Chavi was pierced by the pain of Kale's sword, and he thought he could kill him with a single blow, but he didn't expect Chavi to lash out, parrying Kale's blow. And then shouting Padong's name, he unsheathed Chavi's sword and then threw it to his side. And now the sword is in Xavier's hands. And so the fight is now almost on equal footing. A ripping blow, Chavi shouts, followed by a fiery shot that pushes Kale into another room. He doesn't understand how a sword can be used as a cannon. But it works. A ripping blow. A lunge forward, following in Kale's footsteps, and then another riposte. Kale is surprised at Xavier's ability. At this very moment, Lloyd is fully concentrated in absorbing the poison mana, and asks Alicia not to distract him, to the point where Lloyd's mouth starts bleeding. Alicia doesn't understand why Lloyd is trying so hard to save her, after all it could kill him. Another ripping blow and Kale is carried into the banquet hall, followed by Xavier, and his thoughts are only one thing: to defeat him. But Kale realizes that it will take a long time to fight him, so he shouts to the guards that Chavi is an enemy of the queen and orders them to raise their weapons against him. But Chavi is serious and with a single swing of his sword, throws back 3 elite warriors. Kale is amazed by Xavier's skills and realizes that when he reaches Master Swordsman, he could even destroy a small country. But that's not going to happen, Kale says. Wrapping his sword aura around his sword, he walks towards Chavi and orders no one to interfere. A couple slight movements of his hand and Xaviera is already being pushed away from him. One swing and Xavier is thrown backwards, punching through all the walls nearby. The poison absorption is complete, but all the poison inside Lloyd is destroying him from the inside out. That's how Alicia got rid of the poison. Gathering it all in one hand, she chopped it off. But there's another way, a ripping blow that sends all the poison into the air. And now it was time for Kale to approach Xavier and deliver the final blow, but at that very moment Lloyd launched a ripping blow that distracted him for a few moments. But it's enough to get him up and muster up the last of his strength. Xavier can't back down, for he has made an oath, both to himself and to Mr. Lloyd. After the attack on the Mega Titan, Chavi opened a part of his soul and confessed to Lloyd that he did wrong when he abandoned his master and rushed into the attack forgetting his duties. With such a weak will. "I'm not fit to be a knight," says Chavi. "Seriously, everything you just said, it's not like that at all. Although you're still looking at a 6-month pay cut." 3 months. Do you really think I'm gonna give in? No. Then why are you asking? I'm sorry. I swear as companion to the master, I will never again neglect my duties. Do you really expect me to believe that while you're driving a stick into a fire? You don't have to believe me, but I will keep my oath. I already know that Master has reached the level of the 3 rings. I need to catch up with you, which means I'll be Swordmaster by the end of the year. What's with the tone, like you want to lose 5 pounds, huh? You know, each person has their own limit on how much they can expand their mana heart. Theoretically, you can't grow any further but... Hey you. This time, I'll do without Master's help. I won't rely on Master anymore. Using only my own strength, I will become a sword master." And at this very moment, Kale's aura sword pierces through Xavier's body, which surprises the other, because anyone else would have been blown to pieces long ago. Using the burning, he deals critical damage to Xavier, but he doesn't back down and uses his mana flow through the sword, and then to his arm, and then to his heart. And finally to his heart of mana. Xavier faints and falls to the floor. Kale feels no breath or mana flow. After spending a lot of time on Xavier, he decides to go to the Queen. "Now I understand what a sword master's mana is like." And by filling the sword with his aura, he transcends everything that has ever existed. Even Kale is amazed at how pure and beautiful and warlike and powerful Xavier's aura is. Gathering all his power, he makes one last attack that Kale cannot repel, the aura rushing through the ocean like nature itself, piercing through Kale's left arm, and he falls in fear. And whoever decides to help him will meet the Master's sword. Lloyd is unconscious at this point. He was able to save Alicia and siphon off all the poison mana, and because of that he has a new skill available to him, a skill that gives him resistance to poisons. Bam, she doesn't seem to like that face either, and they both don't understand how it happened. She just got scared of his face and he didn't realize it himself. There is no strength to stand up either, but there is a skill that allows you to absorb all the surrounding mana. That is what Lloyd will use. The incredible power attracts all the mana from the environment, and all the mana that the Queen has left. She is frightened by this current, but does not resist, because he saved her life, so he can absorb it all to satiate his heart. The skill heart mana increased to the level of small specialist. Now there are skills berserk. In this state of stamina and reflexes increase by 200%, available only once a day. Lloyd woke up and remembered that he had to help Xavier. And stop, what's wrong with her? Apparently my skill has had an effect, Lloyd thought. Alicia wants to know more, so she asks him to take her on his back and go to Xavier. As they rush towards Xavier, they finally catch up with him, and they see Xavier standing before them with his sword of aura and a defeated Kale. The Queen immediately ordered everyone to lower their weapons. She told them that the only one who tried to kill the Queen was Kale, and Xavier and Lloyd were only trying to save her. Lloyd is very surprised that Chavi became a sword master, but also very happy that he survived. "I'm really glad everything's okay," Lloyd said. "Today you were able to be part of another great event. Your accomplishments have unlocked hidden skills," says the system. Activating the reward system, titles have been created for your achievements. Each title grants a bonus skill. Also, every month at midnight on the full moon, they give you a certain number of points. The titles are ridiculous, but the skills are useful. The gift effect, Fortitude, activates when you fight an enemy 10 times stronger than you, doubles the strength of the strike, and halves the damage you take. When you use the points, you will gain absolute power against the laws of nature. A spoiler-ending skill is available. Lloyd tells Julian that the Queen is interrogating everyone who uttered that secret phrase, and it may not go well, because there are very few suspects. Lloyd is surprised that these events happened 3 years earlier, which means that something bad may happen, but there is a special skill that can help. Julian learns from Lloyd that Xavier is now at the Queen's audience, as he has become a master swordsman. He is very surprised by this, as he thought he was just helped by the soldiers, but even 100 soldiers are not enough to defeat a swordmaster. At this time, Queen Alicia praises Xavier's skills and recognizes him as a master swordsman, so she orders him to stay by her side and become commander-in-chief of the guard. Julie is frightened by the fact that Chavi will have to leave them, but Lloyd says he just doesn't know him well. Xavier apologizes profusely and says he can't leave Arco's Frontera, the Baron he's been guarding since he was a boy. Alicia says that disobeying an order is akin to treason, and he'll be executed for it, to which Chavi replies that he's willing to do so, just let him write a farewell letter. But good thing Alicia is a sweetheart, so she lets him go and says she respects his will. A startled Julie comes running to meet Xavier and asks if he's leaving, to which Chavi replies that he'll always be a knight of the Frontera Manor. Frontera Manor, I'm not exactly popular with the locals, Alicia thinks. Lying on the grass under the beautiful and bright moon, Lloyd studies the skills he has learned since the beginning of his journey. They are quite useful skills that will bring him a lot of benefits. And it is at this point that Lloyd gets points for his titles, for which he can use a closing spoiler that will show the future. Hey, why not? The deepest darkness, and before Lloyd came a sepulchral silence, followed by fire and familiar home ground. This is the Frontera estate that was painted red after the death of all the inhabitants. From the unknown. And now he sees three silhouettes, the bodies of his father and mother, Xavier standing beside him, and Lloyd himself sitting in tears, apologizing to them and blaming himself for not being able to come to them sooner. For not coming to them sooner and saving them. A cry of an unmentionable outcome causes the swarm behind Lloyd's back to awaken.